The eurozone has been enjoying a relief rally over the last 6 months or so. This was a result of the strong announcements by Mario Draghi, president of the ECB, that the ECB would do whatever it takes to ensure that the eurozone continued as a monetary union. At the time, he announced the intention to do what he called OMT, outright monetary transactions, purchases of bonds of crisis economies with maturities of up to 3 years. In fact, he hasn't done that at all, so we've only benefited from the announcement effect. It has been very positive. It's brought bond yields down, and there is clear evidence that money has been flowing back into the euro, the money that fled because of fears that it would break up. So although they've addressed the symptoms, the problem is they haven't addressed the causes of the problem. The eurozone remains fundamentally flawed. It's a monetary union without a fiscal union. The ECB has not been as expansionary as either the Fed or the Bank of England. And the result of that is that credit in the banking system in Europe as a whole remains very restricted, and in fact lending across Europe as a whole is declining. And that means that the outcome for growth this year will be very weak. I think we will see several quarters of negative growth, which in turn means that the debt ratios for these countries will tend to rise because government revenue will be very weak, and it'll be difficult for them to pay down the debt. Given that the eurozone is a monetary union without a fiscal union, the European authorities have had to devise various makeshift devices to substitute for that fiscal union. For example, they've created a European Stability Mechanism, the ESM. But that's really a rather poor substitute for a federal government. And they've also started to compile or construct what they're calling a banking union. But again, that will not be a guarantee that banks don't get into trouble in the future. So these kind of substitutes will continue to be part of the picture, but in my view, they don't represent a full solution to the problem. Essentially, in the modern world, money and credit are provided and created by commercial banks when they make loans. And these banks are leveraged institutions, so from time to time they will get into difficulty. And when they do, you need a government behind them as a backstop. And the eurozone will fail to have that as long as it fails to become a fiscal union. So that problem will remain unresolved, and it may be that as a result of that, the crisis will continue to erupt from time to time, and that in turn will mean that either some countries will get tired of doing austerity, or some countries in the north will get tired of providing bailouts continuously. So there are still risks to the eurozone over the next few years that there could be some degree of breakup because of either austerity fatigue by the crisis economies or bailout fatigue by the stronger core economies.